Hello, welcome back to the Red Path. Today we're going to have a quick look at some transport tactics, especially for the drill. Alright, so as you can see, we're using Tabletop Simulator today. Reason for that is because I am lazy and could not be bothered to set this up in real life. But I'm going to go through 3 tactics or things you can do with transports, and I'm going to mostly be focusing on the drill because it has some unique opportunities. So let's just dive right in. First one I want to talk about is, let's look at the situation here. We've got an objective. And then we've got a squad of Devastators with multi-melters and then a melter on the champion there, wherever he is, somewhere. Anyway, it's basically a unique situation that can occasionally happen. It's kind of happened for me, but not quite in this way. This is like the optimum version. So what we've got here is an objective with Devastators with anti-tank weapons on there. Okay, so that's kind of generally the situation you're going to want. Something with anti-tank, and this is a bit of a sacrifice. So what you would do, you see this situation and you need to swing some victory points. If you can capture this off them, that will give you a 10-point swing in VP on the primary, something like that. So what you would do in your movement phase, you would obviously have to kind of stage manage this a bit, but if there is an opportunity to deep strike in, and we can see the 9 inches here, so we do have a space here for the drill, we would bring in our drill, right? And it would pop in right here. It may not be perfectly on the board, but the theory is sound. Because we are 9 inches away, that's this white line right here. So we deep strike in, and obviously Space Marines and several other factions have stratagems to shoot something when it appears from deep strike. It's called Auspex scan for the Space Marines, I believe. So you're kind of baiting this. You don't know that they're going to do it, so it may not always pay off. But the point of this is you deep strike in your drill near something that can potentially kill it in your own movement phase, because the distance from the drill is, well, when I pre-measured it, was just under 6 inches, right? So you're hoping that they're like, oh, we can't have this drill here because it's got some decent shooting, it's got its melter guns and its Volkite on there, and then it's got a couple squads of troops inside. We've got a squad of Berserkers and a squad of Chosen in there, because that's normally what I run in mine. So we hope that they do their Auspex scan, and we actually hope that the drill is destroyed, right? And that seems strange, like why are you sacrificing a 180 point, really powerful model, very efficient model, especially for Chaos Space Marines, to just be destroyed? Well, the point is this. So they destroy it, okay, it blows up, boom. What you can then do is use the emergency disembarkation stratagem to disembark your units up to 6 inches away. Now, they will die on 1s and 2s, but mathematically with 10 models, you're probably losing 3, which that does suck, because that, puts you up to about 210, 220 points of units lost. But in this situation, the Berserkers can disembark 6 inches away, and any surviving Chosen could as well. What you would pull would depend on you. So you would just disembark your 6 inches, which would actually give you an OBSEC unit just towing that objective, right? Yeah, there we go, 6 inches. So you would actually steal this objective. Now, these won't be able to charge in your phase, which is fine. So what you might do is, depending on your weapon loadout, is put your Chosen on there instead. Like if they had melter guns or flamers, something that you thought could whittle them down so you would outnumber them, something like that. You could do this, if it was even better stage managed, if they were just towing it. Okay, they're all drunk. If they were towing it like that, you could bring your drill in even closer, and you would be able to disembark without the emergency disembarkation and take that objective. But that's the theory, because the reason is, whilst when you deep strike your drill, the drill's disembarkation rule, or its deep strike rule, whatever you want to call it, allows you to disembark on the same turn, but you must disembark 9 inches away from enemy models. Okay, that's pretty standard for that sort of thing. However, if you choose not to disembark when you arrive, it then kicks over to the opportunity for your opponent to play a strategy like Auspex scan. And if they do so, you've skipped the rule that you would otherwise use and can then use the explosion or the emergency disembark rule, which is a separate rule, and that bypasses the having to disembark 9 inches away. You can disembark up to 6 inches. So that gives you what you need. So that's the first tactic. Again, it is a very niche situation. It's not always going to crop up, but it's something to think about, especially if you need to get a good primary swing or knock an opponent off an objective or something like that. Again, you can't charge when you disembark from an exploded vehicle, but you can shoot. So depending on what you've got inside your transport that deep strikes in, you know, you got to make that choice. But it's just something to think about, okay? The second tactic I want to talk to is another very niche one, but it's specific to ROD or RND, depending on when this video goes up, okay? So obviously with ROD, you have to perform 4 actions in all 4 quarters of the battlefield. They have to be performed by an infantry unit 6 inches or greater from the center line of the battlefield. So I've actually marked down here. So what you can do, and again, this is very niche, but if you can, if you're able to, and if it does seem like the most appropriate way to score these points, because, you know, it's a close game and you don't necessarily need your drill and the troops in combat straight away, you can disembark, or you can deep strike your drill about 1.5 inches, just under 1.5 inches, because of base sizes and stuff, before the 6 inch line, okay? So here's the center line here, and then on this side is 6 inches away, and on this side is 6 inches away. So this 9 inches here is from there to the drill, and then this side is 3 inches from here until this point. And what that means is you can actually disembark a squad of infantry, and I'm using berserkers here, and they will be just outside 6 inches. So the 6 inch line, okay, so they could actually go slight, like 0.1 inch further, and then they will be within the 3 inches. Okay, it's not showing exactly, but I did micro measure this out when I was planning it. So you may need some wiggle room, and you're really going to have to micro measure here. So what that means is you can disembark a squad of infantry and you can rod in this quadrant, okay? So, okay, great. Why didn't you just put the drill up here? Well, the reason for that is the drill can't move. I mean, it can charge, but it's going to be a 9 inch or an 8 inch at best for World Eaters charge, which you don't necessarily want in this situation because you're trying to max out rod and maybe engage in all fronts, something like that. So this is your turn 2. You rod in this corner, right? Okay, so now we flip over to turn 3, and luckily they just didn't touch you over here. So now your second squad of infantry that you've got, they can disembark 3 inches from the drill, which is going to be about there, something like that. Yep, we'll call that 3 inches. Then they can perform a normal move, which will put them just over here, which puts them in this quadrant for, let's say, your 3rd or 4th rod. These are going to obviously be your 2 most difficult rods, right? Likewise, this squad can re-embark on the drill, and then the drill, he can go off his 8 inches, or he can advance if needed, and go and do what he needs to do. Now, this squad will be rodding, so they're not doing anything else this game, but you've just scored, you know, you may have just maxed out rod with this little tactic. So it's just something to think about by maximising your movement, your placement, your deployment of a deep striking unit. If you measure it just correctly, so once the first unit disembarks, it is 3.0001 inches, sorry, 6.001 inches away from the center line. Then on the other side, you'll have, just because of the dimensions of a drill, you'll have just over 9 inches away, which will put you just over 6 inches from the center line. So, yep, just a little handy tactic. Something to think about. You're not going to use it every game. Hell, you might not even have to use it ever, just because we have a lot of access to things like Raptors and Tartar Traitors and whatnot. But it's just a handy little thing to think about. Maximizes your efficiency a bit, scores you some VP. And the third thing I want to bring up here is this is more of a deployment tactic. So I'm using a Land Raider Achilles because I just love Land Raider Achilles. I'm actually going to put a mission on here. Let's get there. I think Scorched Earth is the one I want. There we go. Yep, that works fine. So when you're deploying, something to bear in mind, again, this is to do with disembarkation. So these are the objectives, the white ones here, and then this World Eaters one is actually the central objective on this side. You want to deploy in such a way that you can often threaten center field objectives, right? So the way you do that is when you deploy your Land Raider here, if we put this on, you can see you don't need to be touching it on turn 1, but what you can do, now you may want to be obscuring, but in this setup, if you're obscuring, it's not actually going to work for turn 1. But you may not necessarily want that just because of depending on what the rest of the field looks like. But for this situation, we're going to deploy the Land Raider toeing the line and just inside this objective. So we're currently holding this for what it's worth, right? May count on some missions. So, okay, great, awesome. You held a home objective, Jamie. Well done, good for you. But the point is, when your opponent comes for you on this side, you know, maybe they send some Vanguard vets or whatever they have over here to take this. You have a 9-inch move disembark with whatever you've got inside, and I tend to keep Berserkers inside here now. I used to run Chosen, but I'm liking Berserkers inside. So if we go from here, 9 inches will get you to just about there, which on this mission and a couple of the others will definitely put you on an objective, just because of the way the battlefield works and how large most of the deployment zones can be. So you can see here on turn 1, we can control this one automatically and have very easy access to get OBSEC troops on this objective here. And, you know, technically you can mirror it on the other side, do what you need to do. You may want to keep them inside and have your Land Raider back to benefit from obscuring. And if you do that, okay, so he can't be shot from most angles, and then turn 1, after you've survived the first firepower, you shuffle up, you're holding that ready for your second turn and actually score it. It's generally going to be unlikely to pop a Land Raider, Achilles certainly, that way if you position him well and, you know, away from their anti-tank threats on the other side, etc, etc. But that gives you, on your next turn, on turn 2, you've got Berserkers which can disembark. They're 9 inches over here. Of course, they're all drunk. There we go. We'll put them there for now. And then whatever they did throw up here, well, now they're in charge range of Berserkers. So it just gives you a little bit of an advantage in the points game. And it's all down to your deployment. You want to look at what transports you're starting on the board. Obviously, this would work probably a bit better with a Rhino, actually, because you're less concerned about it. And Land Raider Achilles, with its 24-inch threat range, shooting-wise, is only just about touching the centre field. So if they've got, you know, a Dreadnought or something sitting back here, they can stay out of your threat range, and then you're kind of screwed. But whatever you choose, if you've got a transport, remember the troops aside can disembark and move up to 9 inches generally, unless you're running Possessed or something like that with the extra inch of movement. You can also advance slower units like Terminators. So just bear that in mind. Where can you put a transport in such a position where it will happily hold a backfield objective if necessary, and be able to provide a springboard for movement or advance onto another objective, and in this case actually provide pretty good defensive firepower? Because you see here, this Land Raider, now it's inside the building, can see through the windows. It's got a threat over to this position, it's got a threat over to this position, it's covering the objective we want to hold, it's holding this objective, it can shoot on its flank if they push down to this objective. It's got a lot of good fire lanes, and it just needs to sit there, because once its transport utility has been used, it's just a fire base, it's a platform. And typically you're going to be keeping a Lord or Khorne near it or something just to give it the accuracy if needed. But then, you know, you can, in turn 3, turn 4, whatever, move it out, leave your Disciples over here, and it can come out and be more threatening wherever it needs to go. So there's 3 tips. Some of them are probably common sense, some of them are very niche, I understand that. But, you know, as again, we're 4.5 years into a codex. I think we've covered just about every bit of tactical nuance we can with the World Eaters on the channel. So there's not much I can really do. So we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for content here. But I do think we are in a position chronologically where we're going to start getting some good information soon. I'm very hopeful and confident that we're going to get some solid rumours or actually some news from GW regarding the CSM Codex, whatever's going to happen for World Eaters, whether we're getting a Codex or a supplement or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, alright, so hopefully you got a little something from here, hopefully a little bit of advice, something to make you think about how you play the game a little bit, up your game, get you a few more points and a few more wins on the tabletop. Alright, so that's it for now. Hope you've enjoyed this one, and until next time folks, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.